All right. What's happening, guys? Good morning. Good morning to you. It's Wednesday, May 26th, 2021. This morning, we're going to talk about the difference between traditional leaders and servant leaders. What is the difference? Anybody know the difference? We're going to break it down this morning. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life. And then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, guys, what's happening? Good morning to you and happy Wednesday. Man, it is a beautiful, beautiful day here in Pittsburgh this morning. I'm excited to be here with you guys this morning. And this is a topic that I've had a lot of conversations about recently. This concept of, different types of leadership. The difference between traditional leadership and servant leadership. And there is a drastic contrast between these two things. And I think that not enough people realize the difference between these two and how you really operate differently. And some people can be a little bit of both, right? As they're kind of crafting their leadership skills. So the difference between traditional leaders and servant leaders is what we're going to talk about this morning. And you will walk away from this definitely having some clarity on exactly how some people function. And really, you might recognize some things in yourself where you kind of balance between the two. And I think that we're all guilty of that at times. And so hopefully this conversation will be one that kind of creates some clarity for that. So I want to say good morning to some folks. As always, what's happening, Carla? Good morning, Jared. Tammy Clark, my girl, good morning to you. Trisha, Steve Flaherty, what's happening, brother? Trudy, Bob Bernard, Ryan Austin, Jenna, the woman behind it all. Brett, what's happening, man? And Scott Rhodes, good morning to you guys. So Eddie Brown, what's happening, man? Saw you jump in there last minute. All right. So the basic concept of traditional leadership versus servant leadership is this. Servant leadership says this: they don't work for me, I work for them. Doesn't matter what your title is. Doesn't matter if you're a business owner. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. What matters is the concept of your job as a leader is to make their jobs easier. And so ultimately you work for them, right? You're supposed to see the things that make their lives easier, and you're supposed to eliminate those things that make their lives difficult. That is the idea of a leader, right? Servant leaders have that concept that they work for their people, period. They are there to serve those people and to make their lives easier. So here's what I looked up a couple of things this morning, and here's what I want to share with you. Servant leadership is a leadership philosophy in which the goal of the leader is to serve. This is different from traditional leadership, where the leader's main focus is the thriving of their company or organizations. Let me read that again. This is different from traditional leadership, where the leader's main focus is the thriving of their company or organizations. Now, here's something that is very interesting. When you look at people who are servant leaders, who really put their people first, who really go out of their way to make people's lives easier and better as a leader, there is a stark contrast between them and the traditional leader or the everyday leader. The second thing that I read this morning said this: servant leadership is a leadership style and philosophy whereby an individual interacts with others either in a management or fellow employee capacity to achieve authority rather than power. Think about that. To achieve authority rather than power. I would also argue that you could use the word influence instead of authority, because when you have influence, you are actually able to lead people far more effectively, right? Maxwell's law of influence says that the person with the most influence is the leader. Think about that within your own organization, within your own family. How many families do you interact with where you see the children start to gain a lot of influence? And through that influence, they actually, in some cases, become the leader, don't they? Think about that. So one of the things that came to mind this morning when I was reading these definitions and different things on servant leadership versus traditional leadership is this concept that, and I've seen this so many times in my career, going back all the way back to when I was a retail manager in corporate America. I would see people go into stores, into retail locations as a new manager. And they would take those stores over and they would literally just grind their people into the dirt because they wanted to get results. And they thought that through pushing their people and having really nothing, focused on nothing other than getting the result, not being servant leaders, and they would push these people and they would get results pretty quick. But those results would never stay. They were short-lived, right? And so for 60 days or 90 days, they would have great performance. And then all of a sudden, boom, you'd start to see employees start dropping like flies, asking to be relocated to other stores, leaving the company. Versus the opposite approach, servant leaders, it may sometimes take a little bit longer to get things started as you build relationships, as you start to understand your people. You take the time to understand exactly how they want to be coached. You take time to mentor them. You take time to understand and listen. You serve those people. But when the servant leader starts to get results, when that chart starts to uptick, it looks like a hockey stick. And those results become indestructible because the servant leader is actually doing two things. He or she is building a culture alongside of being a leader, alongside of running an organization, alongside of helping people grow into the best version of themselves. And so servant leaders are very, very different than the traditional leader. And again, the traditional leader is more focused on just the results as opposed to being a coach, being a leader, being someone that pours into other people, being a mentor. And so when we look around us in the world and we see so many people in what we refer to as leadership positions, whether they own businesses or they have a leadership title, or, maybe as we're moving people up through our business, we're promoting people within our businesses. We look at those people and we say, well, this person is X. They are the manager of whatever. They are the director of whatever. So they have a leadership title. But we should never mistake a leadership title for leadership skills and leadership experience. And so as we move people into leadership positions, it is more important than ever for us as fellow leaders and mentors to make sure that we are reminding people of what that looks like, that we are setting the right example as a leader for them to follow. And so I think we can all do better. One of the things that I'm committed to doing at this point in my life is rereading the greatest leadership books that I've ever read, because I am a believer that how you interpret a book or how you see things or what you get out of it is very different from year to year. How I read things today versus how I read them 3 years ago, completely different. I see everything completely different. I have a lot more experience. I've been through a lot more things. It's easier for me to see things that I didn't see 3 years ago. So when I reread these books, it's like reading a brand new book over again. I talked about this with regard to clients yesterday on one of our top contractor school calls. I talked about The concept of having a client for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and not really digging into how their business has changed. So as a contractor, we just keep completing their jobs. We take their requests and complete their jobs. But are we actually revisiting to see how things have changed? And if that is true, which we would all agree that it is, things change over a period of years. People have different problems 3 years from today. Then isn't it true that the same goes for our employees? For those people that we work alongside, for our family members? Are we really communicating? Are we really continuously learning how to serve them better? Are we really sitting down and asking them every single year how they want to be coached? Because ultimately, if we don't ask them how they want to be coached, we're just going to coach them the way that we choose. And if we don't mold to people's preferences, then we fall into the pile of people. I believe that was Jim Rohn said, remove yourself from the pile of people. We become just another person, just another company, just another leader. And so people don't stay loyal to those companies. And so servant leaders, the most important thing that I believe servant leadership does is it creates a magnetic culture. It creates an environment that people want to be part of. It creates a place where people see each other and hear each other because the leader is setting the example. The leader is putting themselves last. The leader is standing in front when the bullets are flying and behind when it's time to take recognition. This is what servant leadership is. And so when we read the definitions of these, it makes a lot more sense as to what these things say. Let me read them to you again since we've had some conversation. Now you might digest this a little bit different. Servant leadership is a leadership philosophy in which the goal of the leader is to serve. This is different from traditional leadership where the leader's main focus is the thriving of their company or organizations. Serving versus results. There's a balance there, right? We can serve and get results. We can't be focused solely on just one or the other. We have to find a balance there. But our mission as a leader is to serve. Servant leadership is a leadership style and philosophy whereby an individual interacts with others either in a management or fellow employee capacity to achieve authority rather than power. You earn respect by being a servant leader. You earn a paycheck by being a traditional leader. You earn loyalty by being a servant leader. And you earn an income by being a traditional leader. And that income will probably change from time to time because traditional leaders generally don't last the test of time, do they? They end up moving from place to place, job to job, company to company, team to team, because they wear out the people that work for them. But servant leaders, those people that truly care, that truly pour into their people and put their people first and solve the biggest problems that their people have, those are the people that last the test of time. And I would tell you guys, like the conversation we had yesterday about customers, it's exactly the same, right? When you look at customers, the people that win in business are the ones that solve the biggest problems their customers have. The people that win in leadership solve the biggest problems that their people have, who are, by the way, their customers. So there's a big difference, right, between traditional and servant leaders. And so I ask you as you go into today, as you finish out this week, look around you and figure out who is who. Are there people around you that are serving you, that are putting you first, that are really sacrificing for the greater good of the team, of the company, versus those people who are, maybe just managers, or maybe they have a title, but they're not just yet exceptional servant leaders? It's important to recognize this, right? Because we all function in the society of both. There's a lot of both. So recognize those people. Don't be afraid to have these conversations with someone when maybe they're not putting their team first, because it's likely in a lot of cases that they don't see it. They may not see it. So embrace the conflict that comes along with the role of leadership, because even if you don't have a title, you're still considered a leader, right? So embrace that conflict. Provide feedback respectfully, but provide feedback. If your leader is trying to grow, they will be very appreciative of that feedback. I know I am. When people give me feedback that can help, I certainly, don't attempt to do things wrong. That's for sure. Every once in a while, we get it wrong. We do the wrong things for the right reasons, right? And so we need to be reminded. We need to be coached as well. And so I ask you, think about that. Think about the people that are around you. Have some conversations about it with people. And, this is a great topic to talk about because it can transform a team, an organization, an environment, right? Where we're worried about each other as much as we're worried about the end result. And when we take care of each other, the result takes care of itself. That's it for today, guys. I will see you again tomorrow morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective. Thank you, guys.